This is the MUGG sneaker that I designed with Goral last year to make a little collaboration to fill a hole in the market that I don't think anyone's really done, which is a winter or a cold weather sneaker that's actually warm, that has really high quality materials, that doesn't look like you're wearing a girl's shoe, for lack of a better example, and that you don't have to wear this giant snow boot around. That's what we tried to make. And so now a year later, inside the box underneath of the MUGGs 1, we have the MUGGs 2.0. And we've gone back to the drawing board, changed a few things, and improved it quite a bit. And if you have no idea what MUGGs are and what that stands for, it stands for Manly UGGs, because this all started as a joke video we did with Goral, where I found this really cool vintage military shearling bomber jacket, and they have a series of YouTube videos where they take random things and try to make shoes out of them. And I was like, that would be sick. We could I'll ship this to you guys make it, we'll make this video together. And it turned out so good. I practically begged them to do this collaboration. I was like, is there any way that we could do a real shearling sneaker? Because it works so perfectly. Like I said in the beginning, it was like, there's no sneakers out there that are actual cold weather sneakers that keep you warm and keep you stylish. And the MUGGs 1 pulled it off perfectly. It was a huge success. We sold out in under 24 hours, and everyone seems to really like these sneakers because they're exactly what I said. It's a winter sneaker that doesn't look horrendous on your feet, and you don't have to wear these giant snow boots. Obviously, it's not made for deep snow, but for most people, they're not trudging around through 3 feet of snow. They're mostly just hitting a few puddles here and there, trying to stay warm, keep a little bit of the snow out. And it did it so perfectly, but it wasn't without its flaws, because anytime you do the first round of any product, you're gonna find flaws that are impossible to find by yourself, because when you're trying to test something with one person or a small batch of people, you find a few of the flaws, but when you have hundreds of products out in the world in different environments, people use their shoes differently, they put them on, take them off differently, they tie them at different tightnesses. That's where really that's where some of the real flaws and issues in the design came out. And we really didn't have that many. It was a pretty successful collaboration, especially for a fully new concept that I've never seen anyone do before. But some of the flaws that we saw were people started pulling through the pull tab a little bit, where it was sewn on to the side here. It was easy, if you pulled really hard, to rip that away from the shearling, because even though the shearling is a pretty strong material, it's still not gonna be as strong as this Chrome XL leather that we used in the pull tab. And so that was a little bit of an issue that we tried to fix. The next one was that the upper, because it was mostly shearling and the only structural piece was this backstay, it seemed to kind of sag a little bit, which I didn't really mind. I kind of like the look of a well-worn sneaker and how it kind of sagged down. But a few people wanted to have a little more structure in there, so we tried to fix that as well. And from the initial design, this is something that we thought about doing, but we ended up not doing it, which is gusseting the tongue in the first batch, because I wanted to keep it really slim and tight, and I was worried that the gusset was gonna make it too bulbous and too chunky. But then after I wore them a little bit and a few other people wore them, the issue was that, if you got a little bit of water in there, for the most part, it wouldn't seep into the inside of the boot. But occasionally it did, and if you had snow on top and your foot heat melted the snow, it would slowly get into the shoe. So we wanted to fix that with the MUGGs 2.0 as well. And other than that, there really wasn't a ton of flaws, which, like I said, for a fully new concept of a boot or a shoe that no one's ever done before, at least to this degree, to have it that successful was pretty awesome. And that's a big testament to Goral and the fact that they know what they're doing. And they've done this for, I think it's like over 100 years. And they're a 4-generation owned company. And if I made this sneaker by myself, it would be full of flaws, but Goral knows exactly what they're doing. And that's why I love doing these collaborations, because I get to pitch these wild ideas that you can't really find on the market.
I'm like, will you please make this for us? Like, come on, I think people would like this. I really want this.
And they're like, fine, we'll give it a try. And it's always a huge pain. And like the guys at Goral that design these, the guys that make them, it's definitely not as easy as their other boots and shoes. And so huge thanks to them before we even start unboxing this, because these wacky ideas we do for the collaborations are not easy. And so I really appreciate what Goral does and letting us do these collaborations and working with us and trying all this stuff, because it's fun for me, it's fun for Goral, but it can be very difficult for Goral and the guys that make these shoes. So now you know the flaws and some of the things that we're trying to fix. We went back to the drawing board, came up with the MUGGs 2.0, which is in this box. So let's unbox this and see what we came up with, see how it turned out. So, I forgot to set up my second camera, so you have to, I'll hold it up for you guys. Also, Goral's boxes are so nice. Oh, yes. Look at these. Oh, they turned out so good. I love these so much. The thing I might love most about them is like, they look like high top sneakers. You know, but they also roll in a little bit of that hardy boot look to them. Like from 10 feet away, they just look like sneakers, but you get close and you can actually see and feel the value of the materials and like how well it's built, because this does not look like a pair of Converse. You know what I mean? Like it has a little bit more of a substantial look and feel to it. And so how did we fix these flaws? What are the things that we did to fix them? Well, the pull tab, what we've done is reinforce the pull tab with a little bit of a fabric back or like a nylon strap so that you don't pull through it. It's a little bit small. I'm gonna ask if Goral can make this a little bit bigger to get your, like if you got chubby fingers like me, to get your finger in there. But the way that we also fixed that and prevented some of the sagging and reinforced this area was we added this little collar around the top. See, on the regular mugs, there's no collar, it's just the shear link. But on this, you have a lot more like a traditional boot look to it, which I'll do another one. Pair of whites. You can see that sewing line around the collar there. I think that's a really nice element to add to this, to give just a little hint of like the boot world that this is really inspired from. And it also helps anchor that pull tab in there so that when you're really pulling on this thing, it's not pulling away from shearling, it's pulling away from that Chrome XL that's double layered on top of the shear link. So reinforce that. And then one of the really important things that we did was the gusseted tongue. Because like I mentioned, if you got a bunch of snow packed onto them, over time it would kind of melt and seep in there. And I really didn't feel a whole lot of like water getting into them. And I wore them around the winter quite a bit, because here in Salt Lake City, we get a good amount of snow. It's definitely not the warmest area, and like Utah's known for its snow. And so I put them through the paces, and I didn't really see a lot of issues with it, but I still thought it was worth upgrading, because even if you like weren't in snow and you just splashed in a puddle, there's still this little hole right here that the water could seep into. And so with this one, you can see we've gusseted that up all the way up to the third eyelet. I guess third from the top eyelet, fourth from the bottom. And so it's not a fully gusseted tongue, but it's as high as like half the boots on the market, except for like the Pacific Northwest boots. Because that still gives you, what, like 5 inches of water resistance. But it's not like you're gonna be stepping in a 5-inch puddle. It's more to give the water and the snow a channel to flow out of the shoe rather than inside of the shoe. And so that looks perfect. I love the way that turned out. And it's even made out of that same Chrome XL leather. And so you know that's one of my favorite parts about this. It's as much natural materials as humanly possible, because you can buy winter style boots and shoes and they look okay, but they always like lean too hard into like the wintry thing, and you can see the shearling popping out of the top. It's a little feminine. They just look like winter shoes, and I didn't want them to look like that. I wanted them to just look like regular shoes. And I don't remember what I was saying about that. Oh, the natural materials. And so part of that too was, instead of using these synthetic materials that eventually wear out and split and crack, these liners that like say they're waterproof, but after you wear them for 100 miles, they start like having little holes in them, the water gets in, they're really hot. And so these natural materials like leather and wool, they naturally thermal regulate. And we'll go over some more of the really cool features of wool in the main Rose Anvil video, where we cut this in half on Thursday. We're also doing this in some super limited edition colors with 100 in the dark brown, 100 in tan, and 25 in the green. They might go quick, they might not go quick. It's hard to say. Like, I don't want to seem like we're overhyping how fast these are going to sell out, but you know, like the last batch sold out in 24 hours. We're only doing 100 of these, so if you really want these, be sure to get on that limited edition email list, because you're going to get early access. We'll go over that in a minute. But back to the materials. Black and brown Chrome XL from Horween, probably the most popular tannery in the entire world. They're known for making this leather. It's their leather. The Chrome XL, they started this whole trend of this really greasy, high shine leather that has all this pull up. They're kind of the progenitors of that. Did I use that word right? Progenitors? Then if we look at the shearling, this is natural shearling. A lot of the cheap shearling you see out there, they take wool fibers, glue it to a piece of fabric, and that fabric's glued to leather. This is a natural piece of shearling, where this outer layer here is connected to the wool itself. The wool is embedded into that leather because it's the skin from the sheep that this was harvested from, or whatever. And it's better because you don't get quite as much shedding, because it's actually infused into the leather, into the pores, because that's how leather and hair works. And the hair length is 10 millimeters long, so long enough that you're gonna get a good insulation and some good softness around your foot, but not so big that they look really puffy and big. And another thing we're doing is we're gonna send them with a shearling insole like this. Like, look how plush this is. It's kind of crazy. And we're also gonna send it with a regular insole so that you can kind of choose one way or the other. If you don't need all the heat, you can pull this out, put the other insole in. If you need to adjust the sizing, if you need orthotics, there's all those options there. And the really cool thing about this is when you wear this with this insole in, your entire foot is surrounded by shearling. Nothing is touching your foot except for shearling when you have this in the insole. But when you take this out, one of my favorite parts of Goral, and why I really, really like working with them and I basically begged them to do all these collaborations, is they do two things that basically no other sneaker does. First one is that leather insole. You know, you barely see that in high quality boots. We just cut apart those Patagonia boots for $420 and it had a fake leather insole. These, I think most, if not all of Goral's sneakers come with this leather insole. And more importantly, it's Blake stitched into the actual shoe construction. Because even in the Pacific Northwest brands, they mostly now just glue that insole in, and they use really heavy glue and they don't have issues with it allegedly. But what's cool is this sneaker goes an extra step and sews that insole down through the midsole, I guess is what you would call it, and binds it to the upper that's wrapped underneath. I can actually show you because I have the other cut in half right here. So you can see like the little stitching where I've torn it apart and how that sewed down this insole down through there and binding all those layers together. The benefit of this is durability, is strength. The leather's gonna compress the shape of your foot, give you that custom footprint, but more importantly, these are expensive sneakers. You know, to use Chrome Excel, to use this high quality shearling, to have it made by Goral to this highest standard of quality that won them Best Built in the White Sneaker Series a couple years ago, it's expensive, but because it's expensive, you want to be able to resole it. And so many of these shoes, like Common Projects and stuff, as soon as you start pulling those outsoles off, all those synthetic materials start falling apart. Then it costs more to resole them versus this. All you have to do is pop these sidewall stitches, pull the outsole off, this cup sole off, glue a new one on, and then sidewall stitch it back on. And you'll never have to really worry about all the internal components falling apart because they're all sewn together independent from the outsole. And we'll go over more of this in the cut in half again. I just get excited about this, so I want to just tell you everything. And then the cup sole is a nice thick cup sole. It's got a unique pattern on the bottom too, because we were looking at doing the Margam outsole where it's really flat, and I like the look of that. I like the subtleness of it. But for winter wear or for cold wear or wet wear, it's so flat you kind of slip around a little bit. But with this outsole, you have these little peaks and valleys that really help spread. I don't know how to say this. Like, when the outsole is really flat, you almost hydroplane on a puddle, but with this, it's not flat, and so you're not riding on a thin layer of water. It breaks up that thin layer by having these peaks and valleys, so you actually get some decent grip from a very flat and subtle looking outsole. And then it has these little ridges on the side. It's just for looks. I like it because it gives it a little more rugged of a look. You know, I want to keep it subtle, but I like this outsole. I think it looks really cool. I think it just rounds it off well enough that it looks rugged while still being able to have shearling. And that was one of the big goals of this, is I didn't want anyone to know this was a shearling lined shoe from the outside. And we pretty well pulled it off. You know, unless you're looking really close at these little hairs popping off the top here, it just looks like a sneaker. And I think that's awesome. I love it. So that's your basic information. We'll go over more in the other video. But for your ordering information, launch date is Thursday, September 21st at 8 a.m. Mountain Time for the limited edition email list. Because every time we do one of these collaborations, we like to give everyone that's on the limited edition email list a 2-hour head start, because you know, it's one of these deals where I want you guys that are really passionate about these, that are watching these videos, that are taking part of this, to have first dibs on them by being part of that email list, instead of launching public and then a bunch of people that aren't as close to the brand and don't follow as much buy everything up before everyone else gets a chance. And so 8 a.m. for limited edition email list. I'll put the link to that to get signed up for that in the description below. And then the video goes live at 10 a.m. That's when the whole rest of the world has the opportunity to buy these. So you have 2 hours head start. And you're gonna want to get your sizing figured out And I'll link the sizing guide for the last year's mugs in the description as well. How to figure out your Brannock size with the actual Brannock device or with the paper and pen and a measuring tape. So get your Brannock size. So I'm a 10 on the Brannock. Go one size up in your US size. So I'm a 10 on the Brannock. I'm gonna order a 11. And you're gonna wanna get your sizing figured out before the launch because they might go quick, especially these brown pairs. And it would be a bummer if you didn't have your sizing figured out, it launches, you didn't get it figured out, and then 2 hours goes by, the public launches, and you miss your opportunity. I doubt they're gonna sell that fast. You never know, but last year we sold out 24 hours, so that's why we do it. And I like doing that just because sizing is so stinking hard with these like high-end boots and shoes. It's so difficult. Like half the boots that I bought for this channel don't fit me because of the same issue. And so that's why I like to really dive deep into the sizing, get you guys exactly what you need because they're expensive. You know, these aren't cheap shoes. We're using the highest quality materials built by some of the best sneaker makers in the entire world. So they're not cheap. And so to gamble on sizing is just, I don't. As somebody who's attached to this collaboration, I want to make sure that you guys are getting the shoes you want and you need in the right size. And as for the pricing, they're going to be 325 euros, which is about $400 US dollars. And they launch on Thursday, like I said, 8 a.m. And the public launch is at 10 a.m. Don't forget to get on the limited edition email list so you get that early access at 8 a.m. because we're going to send you an email with a link so you can click on it, get your order in before everybody else. And thank you guys for supporting these. I love doing these collaborations. You know, we work on them all year, and it just happened that like none of them finished up until like the last quarter of the year. So we have like 3 collaborations coming out in the next couple months. So I appreciate you guys supporting them and checking them out because it's my most favorite thing to do right now with this whole business and the YouTube channel because there's so many boots and shoes that I wish were on the market, but nobody makes. And so I love the ability to go to these brands and be like,
We should make this. Come on, like how sick would this be? We should make this. I think people would be interested in it.
and then we get to sit down with some of the best brands in the world, work with them one-on-one, designing the boots and shoes that I love, and then I'm able to share them with you guys. And you know, we talked about some other collaboration from other YouTubers, and they always jack the price up, where we try to keep it as fair as possible, where to a point where Goral's not gonna make as much money on these as they would selling their regular shoes because it's a collaboration and we take a cut and we're trying to keep them as fairly priced as possible. And so huge thanks to Goral for putting up with my wacky ideas and letting us do this. And also thanks to the guys at Goral that actually make these sneakers because they're not fun. I can't imagine cutting shearling all day and dealing with that all up in the air, getting it in your nose and stuff. It's really cool that they're willing to do this for us. So check out all those links in the description. Be on the lookout for that limited edition email list early access email at 8 a.m. on Thursday Mountain Time, and then the video goes live 10 a.m. Mountain Time on Thursday. And I think that's everything you need to know. I think I covered it. I got way rambling off into the woods and off into the weeds a little bit, but it's because I'm excited about this video and these sneakers because it really is something unique. I don't think there's anything else out there like these, and they're made to the highest standard of quality, and that's what I love doing. So thank you guys. See ya.